Africa, a continent brimming with potential, yet facing a complex web of challenges. A land of breathtaking beauty, vibrant cultures, and immense potential, yet riddled with contradictions. Imagine this: hundreds of tons of gold, worth tens of billions of dollars, vanish from Africa annually, smuggled out through elaborate networks.
One thing that keeps me puzzled, despite having studied finance and economics at the world's best universities, the following question remains unanswered. Why is it that 5,000 units of our currency is worth 1 unit of your currency, where we are the ones with the actual gold reserves?
According to a report published this Thursday, an analysis by SwissAid, an organization that focuses on development aid and advocacy, found that a total of 435 tons of gold, mostly mined by small-scale miners and worth more than $30 billion, was smuggled out of Africa in 2022.
Neighboring Zimbabwe, the documentary describes how gold is smuggled out of the country in the name of the highest office in that land. The government of the Southern African nation has reportedly since moved to caution journalists against continuing to cover developments around the story. Hopewell Chino.
A new report by SwissAid sheds light on this hemorrhage, raising a critical question: was smuggled out of Africa to where? Who is benefiting? And what dark forces are orchestrating this massive theft? The gold worth tens of billions smuggled to the United Arab Emirates each year from Africa, report says. Gold smuggling out of Africa, mainly to the United Arab Emirates, has surged over the last decade, with hundreds of tons of gold worth tens of billions of dollars illegally leaving the continent every year.
Is that in 2022, at least 435 tons of gold were smuggled out of Africa. 435 tons. That's more than 1 ton of gold every day. Do you know how much 435 tons of gold are worth? About $31 billion at today's rates. It's enough to wipe out the national debt of some of these African countries, but that much gold was illegally smuggled out of the continent in 2022. And this has been a growing trend. The amount of gold smuggled out of Africa doubled between 2012 and 2022. And where was it smuggled to? Reports say that the lion's share of the gold, about 47% of it, made its way to the United Arab Emirates, where it was reprocessed, rebranded, and reintroduced into the global gold supply. Our next report has the details.
Artisanal miners toil away. Africa loses out on vital tax revenue that could fuel development. The UAE emerges as a major destination for this smuggled gold. But is it a willing participant or an unwitting pawn? This multi-billion-dollar question demands an answer. Here is the troubling part: the large-scale sale of African land to foreign entities. Reports suggest African leaders are quietly selling vast swathes of land to a company based in Dubai. Who exactly is behind this company? What are their long-term plans for this land? More importantly, are these deals truly transparent and beneficial for the people of Africa?
Zimbabwe. Africans are responding to a story that just broke. It is about a UAE company securing land in Africa the size of the UK for the controversial carbon offset projects. CNN reported that Zimbabwe's environment minister signed away control over a staggering amount of land, almost 20% of the country's land. 20% of the country's land. Just let that sink in. That is a lot of land that they have just given to a UAE company that is supposed to be working on the environment. It's called Blue Carbon. It is a small and new company which belongs to an Emirati royal whose family had ruled Dubai for 190 years. So the Dubai-based Blue Carbon company has secured forest land nearly equivalent to the size of the United Kingdom across 5 African nations: Zimbabwe, Kenya, Liberia, Tanzania, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. And this deals Kenya as well and other 3 countries. So in total, 5 African countries have signed up for this and have sold their land to this company.
Is this not just like saying, well, why chase shadows when we can hold the ground beneath their feet? Here is this shocking part. as Africa continued to lose out on vital tax revenue that could fuel development. Do you also know UNECA report paints a disturbing picture? A staggering $1.5 trillion lost in tax revenue between 1980 and 2008. How? Let's unpack this heist. 64%. Corporate crimes. Big businesses, it seems, have mastered the art of disappearing profits, shifting them to tax havens, leaving African nations with pennies on the dollar. Isn't it time for a more transparent and accountable system? 31%. Criminal activities. This dark alley of the financial world thrives on smuggling, money laundering, and other illicit acts. How can we empower African nations to fortify their borders and clamp down on these criminal enterprises? Another one is 5%. Direct African corruption. While greed knows no borders, this figure is a stark reminder of the responsibility African leaders have to their people. What measures can be implemented to ensure transparency and accountability within African governments? While Africa grapples with gold smuggling, China is ramping up its presence on the continent. China's Belt and Road Initiative promises billions in infrastructure projects and trade, but is this a true partnership for development or a veiled attempt to secure resources for China's own growth?
You know, as I talk about African unity, China refuses to get out of my mind. And I hope I'm wrong. But the Chinese know that we are disunited. And they know that in our disunited state we can be manipulated. And they are in the process of manipulating us. So today, there is not a single African country in which the Chinese have not built a stadium. They think we love stadia. There is not a single African country in which they are not building some roads.
Reuters data suggests China's investment is heavily focused on minerals crucial for their clean energy transition and economic revival. Meanwhile, efforts to boost African exports beyond raw materials are stalling, creating a lopsided trade relationship. Is this just a modern version of colonial-era exploitation, as some analysts argue?
We are politically weak, we are economically weak, socially we are disorganized, culturally and spiritually we are confused. That is the continent in which we are today.
While the ongoing agitation is that Africa's nation should focus within, Senegal's new president, Bassirou Diomaye-faye, has not only had his first visit to Nigeria to sign deals, he also on Thursday began his first visit to Mali and Burkina Faso to strengthen ties with these two states, which have quit the regional bloc ECOWAS. Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger are all under military rule following coups. In January, the trio announced they were quitting the Economic Community of West African States, which they said was under French influence, to create their own regional grouping, the Alliance of Sahel States, AES. Faye landed in the Malian capital on Thursday and headed to the presidential palace, where he held talks with junta head Colonel Assimi Goïta, a Malian presidential source said. These visits are part of a drive to strengthen the historic ties of good neighborliness, fraternal friendship, solidarity, and multifaceted cooperation, the Senegalese presidency said in a statement. Faye has made several trips across West Africa since being sworn in as the continent's youngest elected president in early April. Thursday's trip marks his 10th visit to an African state since assuming the presidency. The choice of destinations within the continent speaks volumes about the importance of strengthening Pan-Africanism and reinvigorating sub-regional integration in his diplomatic priorities, a Senegalese government said. Faye, 44, was elected on a promise of radical change and has said he wants to bring Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger back into ECOWAS. Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo has urged Faye to use his goodwill within the bloc to help resolve disputes with the three states. Faye traveled to Guinea last Saturday, where he met with General Mamadi Doumbouya, who seized power in a September 2021 coup, projecting that Africa should look inward to build the continent and not wait to be directed by the West. In the midst of this complex geopolitical dance, Raila Odinga, a Kenyan presidential candidate and contender for the chairperson of the African Union Commission, also proposes a bold solution: an African Union passport. This passport, if implemented, could foster greater integration and movement of people across the continent. But can it truly pave the way for an Africa that is integrated, prosperous, and unified, as Odinga suggests? Will an African Union passport be a game changer for the continent's future? Is China's Belt and Road Initiative a genuine path to development? Or something more? Who owns and controls big multinational companies that focuses on extraction of African resources? Drop your comment below.
If you are still not following us, you are probably never going to see us again. But if you are, congrats. You are on a journey of discovery as we unlock the mysteries of the past.